Hello guys, welcome back to the Big Screen Show. My name is Victor.
I'm Alex.
And we're back bringing you guys another movie review. Back to Marvel we go.
Oh, it's Marvel, Sony.
Sony Marvel, that is. Madam Web is here. It's out. It's in theaters. I know you were not excited for this at all.
No one is. No one was.
No one was. Fair. I am one of the few who was not necessarily excited, but was not against it necessarily. I don't know. I'm optimistic, whether for the better or worse, and I like the cast a lot. So I was definitely not anti this movie releasing, even though I obviously knew it wasn't about to be some blockbuster end-all be-all film. With that being said, let's just dive into some general thoughts and tell the people some spoiler-free general thoughts before we dive deep into what went down in Madam Web and our thoughts on it. Now, I'll start off, like I said. I don't know if excited's the word, but I was definitely looking forward to it because, again, the cast, Marvel, the cast. Let's just be honest, the cast.
Yeah.
I'm excited. The cast. I love the cast. Big fan of Sydney Sweeney here. Big shocker. I'm a 26-year-old guy. I like Sydney Sweeney. Who isn't in my age group? Dakota Johnson. Excited to see her in this situation. I had never seen the 50 Shades of Grey movies. Never thought I would ever watch it. But for research purposes and leading up to this release of Madam Web, I said, let me see, because that's really the series/franchise that kickstarted her career, if you will. So, for research purposes, and out of curiosity, because sure, I've always been curious, but I was never going to act on it. But then, this happened, so I was like, I guess it's time. Let's see what's going on. So I go watch it. That could be a whole separate video, but I'll just quickly say, I didn't hate it. But I'm also a hopeless romantic, so it was just kind of like my thing. It's entertaining. I'm not saying it's high quality, but I was entertained. Anyways, that's a whole different thing. So I did that so I could just see her range, not necessarily her range, but, something from her, instead of this being my introduction to her. And so, with that being said, and then I'm completely new to Isabella Merced and Celeste O'Connor, the other two Spider-Women. I have not heard of these actresses before, but Isabella just got booked to be in The Last of Us Season 2. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. So anyways, I say all that to say the cast was definitely a big part of the reason why I was looking forward to it. Again, I don't know if excited is necessarily the word. But with all that being said, I think it's definitely better than what you thought it was going to be going into it. The way you were talking about it prior to. But as far as I'm concerned, it was pretty much about par where I thought it would be. Or at least hoping it would be, which is not god-awful, but also not amazing either. I was expecting it to be at least hopefully entertaining and passable and enjoyable for the time being, but probably not a movie that I'll completely fall in love with and want to watch over and over and over again. And it was that for me. I think it was that. It was something that for the time being I enjoyed myself, I was entertained, and no, I probably wouldn't watch this again, and that's that. But I definitely enjoyed I didn't hate my time while I did watch it, and I think it had some good moments. It definitely had its bad moments too, sure. But I don't think it's as horrible as people are making it out to seem. I think people are being extremely harsh on it, which people usually are due to the fact when Sony gets involved with Marvel projects now, ever since Morbius, and, well, honestly, probably even before that as well, people just like to be really anal about these things. And I think some of that is being applied here. I don't think it's deserving of that much of negativity. Again, I'm not vouching that it's some Oppenheimer-level movie. Can't do that, obviously. But I don't think it's literally the worst film ever made. I don't think that either. And that opinion's a little harsh. So, all that to say, And that's the best way I can describe it in a spoiler-free way. So my rating for it is a 6, which, as you know, and if you guys have been watching our videos, that's the rating I give for a movie that I think is a good for a one-time watch. So 1 thumb up from me, a 6. I enjoyed myself during the time being, and I probably won't watch it again, but that's okay. Alex, what about you?
Well, for me, going to this movie, I mean, I honestly, the movie was pretty much what I expected it to be. Where it's like nothing really gave me a surprise that much of like the quality the movie was gonna be. I will be surprised that some of it kind of holds up well, but its overall part. But the thing is still this movie has like plenty of faults in its own where plenty of like that where like the villain is pretty much just one note and he's not very interesting and is not very fleshed out for what he is as a whole. And there are cases I've seen for their like the dialogue for a story in writing doesn't honestly
Could have been
feels
stronger.
yeah, it just feels off most of the time for when they're speaking with each other, or like doesn't sound like what like a normal person would say most likely, or it just doesn't seem like as realistic as it may have to be. Where just use like the kind of you had like this like this one take type thing, just say like okay, yep, that's it, you did fine. And oftentimes there does have a bit of like some and like an editing for some parts of scenes, like one in the earlier part of the film, and then in one sequence that I'm going to talk about later on. But compare that to some of its visual effects stuff isn't too terrible, but isn't too terrible actually. It's actually all right. It's not like the most terrible that we've seen for like the past MCU films that we have seen most recently. But I will say that the story and everything with its character and stuff, the writing, it's like it does not do well for the good actors that we have in the movie. Like Sydney Sweeney, Isabel Merced, Dakota Johnson, and the rest. Where it just seems like there's potential there, and like again, writing's not great, but some moments in there do work for when it's trying to give off like individual characteristics between like their characters they're playing in the movie. Specifically with like Sydney Sweeney's Julia, then Anya Corazon and Maddie Franklin, but those times like that, there's not much really emphasis on them to really connect with them so much, other than like just give me like a full like exposition dump on their stories as much. And again, Dakota Johnson and the rest they're working pretty well with the script that's given. But again, that comes down to like the problem of the writers in there and what Sony's doing.
The writing could have been stronger for sure.
Yeah, and again, the stories that we're trying to tell here just falls flat because there's really nothing else really bagging it up or like give it much more emphasis as we think. So it's like it just kind of doesn't work for most of the time. So again, for me, do this thing. I mean, it's not like the most terrible thing. I mean, it's not terrible than Morbius. Morbius to me is like the worst thing that Sony's made, honestly. But I will say this movie is honestly not that great. Where again, as like I guess I can't completely hate it as much, but I can't say I can't fully like it either. For my type of rating, I honestly would give that like for me it's like a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. I think that's like the lowest it should be. Someone rating it. We've been seeing a lot of people give it a 1.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, people.
Yeah, a 1 is stretching it, and I've seen some other movies that like are a 1 basis where everything else just seems like a very cheap production, whereas this one has a pretty good steady production because the movie's budget was like $80 million. And compared to that to like the creator, that was $80 million, but its visual effects and everything really showed how much the money was worth. Now for Madam Web, I don't think it should have been worth $80 million, honestly.
Well, just be lucky it was 80 and not what Marvel does with 250 million, and it looks about the same, if not worse.
Yeah, true. I give props to that.
Honestly, I think they did more with their money than MCU has done in the last like 2 years.
Yeah, especially the Madam Web actually did use like real location scouting for most scenes. So.
No green screen back screen when at a certain environment or whatever. So that I think did a lot of positive for this movie. Because if they would have gone that route, then this movie would have been way worse.
Oh yeah.
But okay, a 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10. There you have it, people. Those are our ratings. You kind of threw me for a loop there. Wasn't expect. I thought you were gonna say 5, but you know, all that. Okay. Anyways, so I think we're definitely tiptoeing around a lot of things. So I think it's time for us to get into some actual spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, this is your sign. Click off the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't know how things work around here, we try to bring you guys videos at least once a week. We sometimes bring you more. And if you like this video, we would really, really appreciate it if you would hit that thumbs up button down there. And if you would, please subscribe. We would really, really appreciate it, and it would help us out a lot. Now, again, spoiler warning. So going into spoiler territory, what were those 2 scenes you were just talking about?
For the 2 scenes specifically I wanted to talk about is like where we have the opening scene where we get where we actually get Cassie's mom, and then the main villain, the antagonist of the movie, Ezekiel Sims, and then it starts open with him basically trying to steal the spider that her mom was trying to discover.
Correct.
But then right when it got to the final confrontation between those two, where it turns out Ezekiel kills Cassie's mom, they got these kind of weird visual close-ups back and forth type thing repeatedly in that one sequence that honestly throws me for a loop, which does not make any sense, because it could have kept it more as a wide shot. I don't know why they had to keep going in and out as a way to create some type of, I don't know, fake dramatic scene when it seems already dramatic enough. And then we get to the whole editing part here for when Ezekiel Sims, years down the line, where it was 1973 in the flashback with him and Cassie's mom. But then we get in 2003 where Ezekiel Sims starts having a nightmare where he's faced off against the Spider Women from in the future timeline and everything like that. But there's this weird kind of editing thing where he's fighting all of them and just does this kind of cutting thing every which way after there's some type of attack or thing going on. And I get it's trying to be give a more vision. Vision or nightmare thing, but it just doesn't really correlate, where it could have been just fine, where it could have kept its more mysterious dark visual imagery, but it doesn't have to keep going in and out. Because to me, that just kind of ruins showcasing the girls' suits and everything, and what they're doing as part of the filming in that whole nightmare sequence.
I think that was the point, which is why I'll go ahead and say it. It breaks my heart, because I think that was their goal with that, to kind of be secretive, kind of not very wide and plain and open, and I guess taking time to really focus on them in those moments as much, because again, it's about Madam Web and not them specifically, to where then there will be a point where they will have their moment to shine, that movie where they actually will, you know what I mean? And that's what makes me sad, because we're not going to get that, because this movie's going to tank.
Yeah, because I almost kind of disagree with that, since Sony had was heavily marketing in their posters and their own TV spots by showcasing them in the suits and everything like that.
But that's just marketing.
But again, that's kind of false marketing.
It's
misleading.
It's definitely misleading. I don't disagree with you at all. That's exactly what it is. But that's what it is.
But again, it's not good. But again, that's
I know.
But then that's what I'm kind of saying. I knew they weren't really gonna be having them doing the whole suits everything for the whole good 10 minutes of the movie. I knew it was probably gonna be less than that, and now, I was right. But again, that just makes it even more reason why nobody wanted to go see this movie or like this movie, because they knew that Sony was gonna do something like this, which again is not a very smart direction for that type of thing too. Because again, they want to build up for what they're gonna be in the future, but again, when you're gonna do something like this and just do this, kind of feels like this
a disservice.
A disservice, or it seems lazy Eddie cop-out thing, try and build suspense, even though you've heavily marketed it. It's not really a good advantage for them to have. It's just shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, speaking specifically on the editing style that you are referring to, I would feel that way if they didn't treat every other vision or memory or flash or any type of situation like that in the rest of the movie the same, but they did.
Not exactly. Other times when they do it for Cassie, it's pretty clear. But they do the kind of cuts whenever she's going in and out from like for like one moment it's like where she's going.
Well, hers is different. There was a lot of those cuts when it was like more in a fast-paced type vibe. As the movie went on, her visions became more clear because she started gaining more control. So it was more that so Ravenish, if you will.
I wouldn't go that far.
You know what I meant, like where you just are actually seeing everything play out.
Yeah, I know.
In clear mode. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, I get that, but I feel like I know they did it a bit more differently, where it's still clear and concise, like you're still getting the information. But I think it has more to do with the fact how like it's not best to do that for like a particular like action sequence or a fight scene like that, or at least in the case.
Don't get me wrong. I'm salty. I'm salty too because I would have loved to have seen them fight all clear and without any hindrance, but that wasn't the case, and I wasn't necessarily looking at it. I don't know. I don't see it like I hear you on the first point of the mother flash on the during the mom thing in 1973. I feel you there, but with this where with the three Spider Women, I don't know if I feel the same way. Like I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, could there have been a better way to do it? Yeah, for sure. There could have been a better way to do a lot of things in this movie, but given the circumstance of it being like his nightmare vision situation or whatever, I'm not like that mad about it. If that makes sense. I don't know. That's how I feel. But I mean, I agree. They could have gone a different direction with it for sure. Because I want to see it. I want to see it go down. You know, just as a fan.
Yeah.
But, you know, that wasn't the case. But I guess I'm just not like, oh my god, what? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. I wasn't like that either. I'm just saying like how, I'm just doing it how it kind of compares from like how it is. I know it's meant to be different compared to that, but I think this kind of adds more to how like Ezekiel Sims' whole thing, where it's not really clear on how his whole type of ability type thing works. Because it finds out later on that as like...
He was cursed.
Yeah, but we never get the full extent of what that curse really is, because, again, he stole the spider originally to try to extend his life and gain abilities, but, again, we don't really see how much of the whole curse thing really plays into effect. Like, is the curse really, like, just him kind of, like, seeing his potential future of him being killed by the spider women, or what? Because he seems to be just fine. Like, he's lived for, like, over up to 30 years, looking almost the same as he was in 30 years ago, but just kind of aged a bit more. And then, of course, he's got, like, you know, strength, wall crawling, and a toxin type thing. So it really almost doesn't really make any sense that the fact that he's like, already this obsessive for, like, being this obsessive.
That's obsessive over what?
Obsessive,
his life ending?
Yeah. Because I get, like, he's kind of had this whole thing, but, like, yeah, he has plenty of time, so, like, again, this is me nitpicking. It's not really affecting my overall thing for the movie, but it's just like his whole backstory and his trauma isn't really fleshed out enough to really where we get to really know him, which kind of which leaves him very one note and disappointing.
It's a very the Marvel situation when it comes to the villain. You go in, you watch it, you leave, you're like, what's the bad guy's name again?
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and honestly, this guy does a bit of a disservice to Ezekiel Sims from the comics, where he was a bit more compelling compared to one in this version.
Yeah, but I'm sure you could say that about probably all these characters.
Well, yeah, so that's right. So I am just kind of, again, that's probably a small nitpick, because like I don't try to like compare everything over to like comics wise. There's always going to be differences, but like,
yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say.
No, so. But I agree with you. I think there's definitely a lack of. It doesn't invoke the villain does not invoke attachment or emotion from you. At all. It gives you no reason to be attached. Not that you should be, you know, if you're like me and you're always like pro the good guy, you're never going to be attached to the bad guy. However, you still want it to feel the bad guy as if, you still want the bad guy to feel as if there's a compelling reason, as if he's important, as if he's vital to everything that's going on and the people, the heroes you're pulling for, right? And that's not given because you're just kind of. I was about to say you're telling me, not showing me, but they actually didn't do either.
Yeah.
So that's even worse because we always talk about show me, don't tell me, but they didn't do either. It just kind of like what you see is what you get, and know like how we got to this point or why we got to this point. Like we don't even know like how or why he met Cassie's mom. He was just with her.
Yeah.
And we just have to live with that.
Now, see, that's the thing. That part really doesn't bother because he's mostly just did it because like he probably knows her from like his own. He's done his own type of research for what it is, and she's the one who's probably gotten closer to it. So he kind of made himself under the assumption of like being guarding her for his own personal gain and everything, which is fine. But again,
That's
we
fair.
don't. But again, later on, we never get any more in depth to him on his reasons why he would start doing that in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And then also like 30 years from now, because you go forward in 30 years, it's like, well, what's your motive now?
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I did notice that oftentimes whenever he's speaking, there's like a weird audio type thing where his words or like the voice doesn't match what he's saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I noticed that.
I
noticed that. See, that you don't notice all
like
because
it wasn't synced?
Yeah, it wasn't in sync.
Huh. No, I did not catch that.
Yeah, because I only caught it because he only ever do that or show it to him like maybe like two times in the movie. The other times you're mostly just hearing his voice where it just kind of cuts to a different part of the scene, or like when he's wearing his whole Spidey outfit type thing. So you usually don't catch that, but I did. I was looking close.
Huh.
So
I
don't. So I don't get why I did. Did like nobody notice that in editing?
Well, I guess they didn't. I can't speak on that. I didn't see it, but I trust your word on it. That's crazy. That's not acceptable for a big budget movie. That's really weird. Now, so yes, Ezekiel, aka the big bad, thumbs down.
Yep.
Not invoking any emotion. If you've seen the Marvels, you know what it is. You already forgot about it. We literally only remember dude's name right now because we just saw this movie. Ask us in a month, we're probably like, oh yeah, that guy, because he doesn't give you he doesn't give you anything to remember him by.
Yeah, the only thing you really got
highlights.
The only thing you really got is just him in the Spidey suit. But oftentimes you can kind of see him more getting knocked around like Ghostface from like the Scream franchise.
Yeah.
Which is kind of thinking. I've heard like this. I've heard from interviews for the actor name Tahar Rahim, where he's basically compared to his character when he's in the suit is kind of like a horror villain vibe type of thing.
Interesting.
Which actually is kind of interesting because when they were Cassie getting these visions, and how he's like crawling around, running around, or like trying to just going through either security guards, police, and then moments where he actually kills them in Cassie's visions. It actually does seem like very horror vibe wise. Which I think is probably like the most interesting aspect they could have done for this, but just kind of sucks that his character overall isn't very interesting.
Yeah.
Which is kind of was really shame.
Now, pivoting from the bad to the good, in the sense that she's the main character and supposed to be like the hero, Madam Web. Dakota Johnson, thoughts on her role, her performance, and how she was written in this.
I really think that she was, well, from what the writing allows, there are moments where she actually does work pretty well when it gets like the more main concept or going in more in-depth discussion of her powers, but then there really isn't that much full exploration for her, like, well, actually, it does show that she's not very, like, social-wise, because she's kind of more like an introvert thing.
Yeah, she's aloof.
Yeah, where she doesn't really fully understand most things, and it's but the way that she shows for her powers, it does work for the most part. It can be visually interesting. It's oftentimes where it just kind of seems like where something event happens, and then just kind of cuts to like, oh, it didn't even happen yet. She's seen it. Where that did catch me off guard a bit, and I don't know if that's either can be like a good or bad thing for the most part, but I think it actually does work itself well, especially as she like learns it later on, stuff like that. And
at the beginning, she's like she's not catching on, but then she did. She ended up catching on. She's like, oh, I'm seeing things happen before they do, and I actually liked it because it was almost like when you like have a song on repeat and it reaches the end of the song and immediately starts back at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that kind of type of effect to it.
Yeah.
And I think it worked fine because you also as the audience get the clear message that that's what's going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it worked well.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say the movie. I mean, the movie does fine with like the rest of the Spider Women cast. You know, like Julia, Anya, and Maddie Franklin. It's just that there really isn't that much writing for them to do except try to make like really dumb decisions.
Yeah, they're the ones They're the ones kind of causing the problems in the movie at times.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
because other than that, they're helpless at this time. They're not who we know they will end up being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so it's just it's honestly it's like it works for the sake of what the movie is trying to accomplish within what was written in the script. But as a spectator and as a viewer, knowing what could be, it's disappointing.
Yeah, because it honestly kind of shows shows in that kid that they can be smart or streetwise. Because like in the movie, Anya is known to be pretty smart and book smart and know things about some tech stuff. But again, they don't really utilize her intelligence so much, where she's just kind of like following the crowd. Because like with Maddie, she is kind of with Maddie, she's kind of the rebel. So like that does make sense for her character, where she doesn't really want to be part of the situation, and like no one's gonna tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But you think with how like Anya kind of goes against her for the most part of the movie, you think that she'd try and try to be the more smarter one to let them know like can't be around here, or utilize her more technical knowledge or something like that. And then Sydney Sweeney's Julia Carpenter, well, she actually seems like more like kind of like the nerdy, bookish, shy type, kind of like early Peter Parker, but with not as much angst as he has for the most part. Which honestly, it's kind of endearing, but it's kind of make her a bit naive to most type of situations or how to handle things.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly, I liked all their personalities.
Yeah, I like how at least the writing was enough to know where they're very individualistic people.
Yeah.
Instead of like just being one and the same and just makes them boring.
Right.
I mean, they
were not monotone. That's for sure.
Yeah, they definitely could be more. They definitely were more expressive and stuff like that. It's just that the writing doesn't really do enough for them to show each of their good strengths, personality-wise, to know about how they could be such good Spider-Woman people in the future.
Yeah,
because again, the movie's trying to like foreshadow that, but it's not really doing enough to really show us why or how.
Yeah, it's definitely telling us and not showing us right there. Yeah, and not even really telling us in depth. More like just telling us that there'll be strong, independent women who stand up for what's right, and that's it.
Yeah, even though we don't really see anything like that, except for like when they actually do try and help Cassie trying to face Ezekiel by listening to her instructions and everything. But like, again, I think that's also why this whole movie really falls flat, because Sony really just didn't do enough.
Yeah. They had the pieces and didn't do the right things with the right pieces.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think it also goes along to more where they do the whole like Spider-Man Peter Parker thing connection, where they have like Ben Parker and then his sister and then like the birth of Peter Parker. Because like, you really tried to show that Sony wanted to have a Spider-Man in the universe, because again, no lie, I found out about this. The reason they really want to make the first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man be the Spider-Man of their universe for this movie, and then try and Tom Holland, but it doesn't work because the way the movie was placed within the timeline of 2003, so it wouldn't have made any sense or wouldn't have worked. So again, they really had made a mistake right from the jump for this.
Sony. So, dang, I didn't know that, but that sucks.
Yeah, because the movie.
If they just went about a couple things differently, this could have actually kickstarted a great little path of tangible content.
Yeah, it's
or
really,
not tangible, substantial content. There we go. That's the word I meant to say.
Yeah, could have given the female Spider Women like their own good little movies and things from like what they would have been like in the future. It was just kind of a shame for like these young talented actors, you know.
And that's my biggest gripe, is that due to what they did in this movie, it's probably not going to succeed financially, and so therefore we will probably never get that you just alluded to, which kind of makes it feel almost open-ended, the movie, and almost like I'm never gonna get that end or that completion to it all.
Because we really do.
Because the movie really it really is made to like yes, it's Madame Web's origin story, but it really is also because the three Spider Women are along with her throughout the entirety of the journey. Basically, it really does put a huge emphasis in the future of this, and now we will never see that come to fruition. So that's like my biggest gripe, and makes me very sad because I would have liked to have seen that, especially with such talented actresses like you just said.
Yeah, and the thing is, only Isabel Merced is mostly one that is probably going to have much better recovery since she's going to be in James Gunn's DCU with Superman Legacy with her debut as Hawkgirl.
Yeah, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. But I'm just saying, like, since you know that the whole Madame
They'll
Web
all be
thing,
fine regardless.
Yeah, we'll be fine. They have other projects and stuff like that, but it's just kind of a shame since, like, you know, Sydney Sweeney. And
I vote for Sydney Sweeney to get another superhero gig somewhere, somehow.
Yeah,
I was telling you about this the other day. Black Cat.
Yeah,
I see her as Black Cat. It could work.
Maybe, but I don't personally see it. But I have heard fan casts where she could actually be a very good Power Girl for the DCU.
Like I said, I'm not putting energy into that universe. So Black Cat. That's my vote.
Okay, wait, you can stick with that one.
I'm just saying that's my vote. But just something. Listen to us, people. Something. Sydney Sweeney can do it, bro. And she's we were talking about this earlier. She's a real nerd. She'll actually sit down, read the comics, dive deep into the character and like the world, and is already a nerd because she like loves Marvel and superheroes and all this stuff. Like, she's a real one. She's one you want to represent. A lot of these actors and actresses that represent the nerd universe, the superhero universe, the comic book universes, whether DC or Marvel, are just there for the check, there for the time being, read what they need to, get explained what needs to be explained, do it, and then they bounce. And then you ask them in an interview like a year and a half after they made the movie, and they're like, and they don't actually know or are actually passionate about it. Some are, but there's a higher percentage of people who are not.
Yeah.
So I vouch for the percentage that are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
'Cause it makes it better.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, she's a comic nerd, and look at her. Her first acting debut is as a superhero that she's probably read and most known about.
Yeah, and you could tell, and it was like, especially the type of role of like borderline her life, a true fan. You know. So, anyways, any last thoughts on Madame Web?
Honestly, again, I just want to say, it's really a shame for the actresses for this movie, and a shame for the people who helped produce this film, because like they honestly seems like they were kind of seemed like a big setup to failure for this thing. Because Madame Web has been dead on arrival since the first trailer, which is honestly a crying shame, and Sony just needs to give up on this Sony shared universe with literally no Spider-Man within this universe of convergence.
There you have it, folks. Those are our thoughts. Madame Web, it's out. It's in theaters. Go watch it. Form an opinion for yourself. I don't think it's bad to the point where I'd be like, no, don't go watch it. I don't fall under that category. I don't know if you fall under that category, but I sure don't fall under that category. I definitely fall under that category of it's good enough for me to suggest that you go watch it and form an opinion yourself. That's where I stand on that. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. We are The Big Screen Show. We will bring you guys videos at least once a week, and sometimes more. So please subscribe. It would really, really, really mean a lot to us. And also, if you like this video, please let us know by pressing that thumbs up button down there, because it really does help us out, like I said. But with that being said, we'll see you guys very soon. This was The Big Screen Show. Peace out.